Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Coffee and Ketchup podcast. I am Zan, or Evangelina Scov, whatever you want to call me, and we also have...
I'm Megan. Welcome back for episode 2.
Episode 2, yes. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about education. I think mainly third level, but we'll also talk a little bit about our different paths in education across all the years. But before we do that, let us tell you about our coffees. Megan, what do you have today?
I have a double chocolate mocha, as our Instagram poll told me, which I'm very thankful for because that cinnamon one did not look appealing. Don't get me wrong, I love cinnamon, but that just looked rank, man. That looked rank as hell.
Yeah, and if you want the opportunity to vote on more polls, not mo polls, you can follow us on Instagram at CACU Podcast.
Yes, follow our Twitter as well at CACU. I know the name of our podcast. CACU Podcast for updates on when our podcasts go live. And probably other shit. I don't know. We don't have other shit on there now, but we will. Hopefully. Eventually.
Yes. And I do want to emphasize for the people who aren't actually watching this on YouTube that Megan does indeed have her coffee in a skull cup. And I have a skull
it seems
cup.
appropriate because we're talking about education and I study bones. But also, this is now my new favorite mug. Halloween is my favorite season because I'm getting dorm room decor from the Halloween decor.
I love that. But I have a skull cup as well. I should have used it, but for some reason that cup can't deal with hot liquids. It started to crack on the inside. So I just have my regular yellow cup that says premium coffee for a beautiful morning. And I just have a regular coffee with milk.
That is a giant mug, and it also matches your wardrobe, which I love.
It does match my wardrobe. I do want to say as well, because, I have merch for my YouTube channel. I ordered my own mug in yellow so I can match.
Whoa.
Yes. But that is unrelated to education, so let us talk about that. Do you want to explain what you mean that you study bones?
Dead people. No, I say I study dead people because technically I will. I just haven't started yet because coronavirus is a bitch. So, I'm starting a master's in human osteology and paleopathology. I always have to say it like that because it sounds pretentious, so I have to say it in a pretentious way to make it feel less awkward. But I'm not starting till January because pandemic times. Woo!
I'm going to translate your degree for the people who don't know. That is old bones and old diseases in humans specifically.
See, you get it. My mom does not. She gets the osteo part because she's got osteoporosis, but she does not get the rest of it. She's like, something bones.
Yeah. No, I did have to Google it. But once I Googled it, I was like, bone lady. I realized you are the bone lady, by the way.
I'm bones, but with old bones, not new bones, which frankly is more difficult. So I'm cooler than bones.
I would argue far more interesting.
Yeah.
Because they're like long dead
people. I started reading this book recently. It's kind of like a textbook sort of thing, but it's about how people used to use cadaver medicine. So they used to crush up bones or drink human blood and all of this stuff. And it's very interesting. Weird, but interesting. A lot of English kings used to do it.
For what purpose?
The blood was supposed to be good for epilepsy, and you'd crushed up human skulls to help with bruising, and so I don't know that any of it actually worked. I haven't got to that section of the book yet, but I don't know. I saw it on a recommended on Instagram, and I was like, that sounds interesting. So I started reading it. I was like, this is interesting.
I would kind of like to read that, though. Although even if it does work, drinking human blood and eating crushed up skulls is frowned upon and probably illegal.
It's frowned upon now. It was not frowned upon at the time, which is even more interesting.
Oh, don't you just miss the old days when we could drink blood all we wanted to?
I know, gladiator matches. People used to run out into the arena and drink blood from the gladiators who had died. And it was just a thing that people did.
What?
It's just a part of gladiator matches.
You know a lot of weird facts about dead people.
Yeah, it's a fun job.
Like your party trick.
I just show up at a party and I was like, did you know vampires are in a sense real?
I love that. See, I have far less interesting fun facts. But to bring us back to the beginning of education, let's go there. So we already mentioned in episode 1 that we went to primary school together. People already know that. And then I left, I went to a different primary school, you stayed on. There's not much we can really say about primary school, I don't
think. School's primary school. I mean, I think the only different thing about our primary school experience is that we did it in Irish, which was a little weird, but it's not that, like, oh my god, crazy. I mean, people always think it is when you're like, yeah, I went to school in Irish. Yeah. Just like, we just spoke in Irish all day. Which a lot of Irish people think is a dead language, so great job, Ireland! You're doing great, sweetie. I know. The amount of times they're like, we're going to take it off the leaving cert. And I'm like, if you do that, it really is dead. Because no one will voluntarily take Irish.
Yeah, there's be like a handful of people that'll do it, and that's it.
Yeah, it'll end up like classical studies. Like, classical studies is on the leaving cert exam, but most schools don't teach it. So they don't, most people don't take it. Or like Japanese is on it, but most schools don't teach it, so most people don't take it. I'm sure Irish would end up as like one of those weird niche ones that people take because they studied it outside of school. Mm-hmm. Or they're like, they're fluent in it.
Yeah. What's really sad is, though, because like we both obviously spoke Irish all the time. You went to an Irish-speaking secondary school. I didn't, but, I was still fluent. But now because, I finished secondary school and I moved out of Ireland, I don't hear it at all. I've completely forgotten Irish. Whenever I try to think of how to say something in Irish, I think of it in German. I don't even speak German. That's so depressing.
Oh my god, I'm dying of a cold. Yeah, like I've been thinking recently about doing a like day in the life vlog, but entirely through Irish. And even just like thinking of like how to say an introduction in Irish or how to explain the video concept in Irish. Like obviously I'd have subtitles at the bottom, and I think I do the intro and the explanation in English and then translate them into Irish anyway. But even just like trying to think through those in my head, I'm like, damn, 4 years and I've lost a lot of Irish.
Yeah, it's mad how quick it goes. Like, I'm trying to even think how we would introduce this podcast. Like, Diagwe, Tomeg, O Cafe? Cafe? Is that coffee in Irish?
See, that's also the annoying thing about Irish is a lot of newer words like are just English words that you say with an accent because people stopped speaking Irish, as the native language before these words existed. So, like, a lot of the times you think you're saying a word wrong, but if you look it up, it's like, no, it actually is just English with an accent. Yeah. No, I love how there were words that existed, like Gardi na Hanva, which literally translates to garden of animals, but is like the word for zoo, got turned into zoo. There's not supposed to be a Z in the Irish alphabet.
But now there is. They just added it for the word zoo.
just for the word zoo. Honestly, I'm surprised that computer has its own word and isn't just computer.
But didn't have to read that because, there's different stories and stuff you have to read for the Irish leaving cert. And we had one and it was like this husband and wife who were like, I don't know, I can't remember, they were fighting or they didn't like each other or something. But in that story, she said computer instead of rivera, which for the people who don't know, rivera is the Irish word for computer. She said computer.
One modern word we actually have that isn't just English with a fada put in the middle.
She just made it up.
I was like, yeah, that's especially bad for a state exam. Like, I could maybe understand, if someone wrote a book in Irish, that might be the slang term for computer. So, you'd let them away with putting slang terms in a book. But in an exam that's testing your Irish comprehension skill,
computer.
I'm very bitter about how they treat Irish in this country, especially that they let people with dyslexia just not take it. Which, like, I understand if your dyslexia is so bad that you have trouble with other languages. Like, I definitely I have dyslexia, for anyone in our audience who doesn't know. I mention it quite a lot. It's my fake excuse for why I'm shit at everything. No, it's just whenever I misspell something because I'm being lazy, I'm like, I'm dyslexic. Fuck you.
And nobody can say, no, that's not an excuse, because it is, actually.
But, like, it legitimately, I think, was the reason I found French so difficult. Because French is one of those languages where the last 3 letters don't exist. And if I can't phonetically spell something, then I can't spell it a lot of the times. So I had a lot of trouble with French. But, like, I went through, 16 years of school entirely through Irish, and I had no trouble. And so many of the people I know who have dyslexia and stopped taking Irish, because if you have dyslexia, you don't have to take a language, like, excelled in their foreign languages. So I'm like, you're just not taking it because you don't want to. It's not because you actually have a difficulty in comprehending the language. Mm-hmm. And also, like, I don't fully understand that, because for most college courses you need to have passed Irish. So I don't know if they get an exemption from that as well, which seems doubly stupid. I don't know. It pisses me off. Like, I understand that some people do need it, and I'm fully, like, fair play, whatever. You don't have to take it if you're really struggling in it. But the amount of people who are like, the minute they got a diagnosis of dyslexia, they're like, later Irish. I'm just like, what? It's so disrespectful. People died for our language, people.
Yes. So I think maybe it should be like a case-by-case, sort of.
Yeah, or like, if the teachers could see that you're struggling in Irish, then maybe they would recommend that you drop it. Like, that makes sense. Because I feel like if you're struggling in something because of your dyslexia, then it makes it hard. You can't just, like, study it more. It's always going to be that little bit of difficulty with it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. That's my rant about Irish.
Okay. Yeah, well, maybe me and you should, like, practice Irish again so we get back into it. And then, I don't know, complain at people that they need to learn. Be like, excuse you, do what we do. Follow our ways.
It is fun for bitching about people who are right next to you, though. It's the main reason my mother and I use. She's like, you've seen that person? No, I don't really like it when she does that, but
it's better than doing it in English while they're next to you.
That's true. But, like, we don't do it often. But you know what I mean? Sometimes it's just like, or if we're on a bus and someone's being very, like, disruptive, and they're the kind of person that, like, you don't want to go near, but you don't want to say something about because they'll come at you, then you just start bitching at them.
That's going to be really handy if we ever do actually take that Japan trip we were planning for next year, which is not going to happen next year because COVID. But when we're in Japan, we can speak Irish and people won't know what we're talking about. If we're really confused and we're like, I don't know what this food they're trying to give me is, but you don't want to be rude, because I think that's kind of rude over there, possibly. We can just be like, what is this?
I feel like also having Irish makes you seem like less of that, like, obnoxious English tourist, like, English-speaking tourist who doesn't need to learn your language because you should learn my language.
Yeah.
If you start breaking out the Irish, they're like, oh, they know another language. It's okay.
Yeah, no, I always feel like that when I travel anywhere. I'm like, I'm just that obnoxious English speaker again. I said that sentence wrong, but that's fine. People know what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Obnoxious English speaker. Apparently that's a difficult sentence.
Hey, at least you can say the name of our Instagram and Twitter handles. I can't, apparently.
cacupodcast for anybody who's wondering.
I'm dyslexic. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, fair excuse. But back to education. So
yes, off topic.
Yes, well, a little bit on topic because we both learned Irish. We both did it for leaving, but you did secondary completely through Irish. I went to 2 different secondary schools, which is something people probably might not know unless they heard about it in the previous episode. Although we don't expect you to memorize everything that we said. There is no quiz at the end of the season.
Oh my god, let's add a quiz at the end of the season.
Yes, oh my god. This is the end of season 1, guys. Here's your pop quiz. Were you studying?
Yep.
Have people cramming the night before. Education, see?
You just have all the podcasts on 2 times speed.
So, yeah, I went to one secondary school, which is in Tipperary, and then went to a different secondary school. And then what was interesting there, because secondary school is a sort of a different experience to move, because I moved in the middle of primary and in the middle of secondary. And with primary, it's like, fine, you have to make new friends and all that, but like educationally, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. And also younger kids, I feel like, are less of a dick about new people coming in.
But no, there were some nice people in the secondary school I moved to, but the problem was that I moved in the middle of fifth year. So for people who aren't Irish, the leaving cert is in fifth and sixth year, and you start from the very beginning of everything you're going to do in that final exam at the end of sixth year, at the end of school. So I moved in the middle of fifth year. So classes had already started, people had already been learning stuff, and the stuff that they were learning, like in English and Irish and other stuff, was different to what I had been learning previously.
Yeah.
So I had to completely change everything and like catch up and relearn. The only issue with that was that I was not a good student and I didn't care about studying, so I just didn't.
Yeah. And like, yeah, because it's, there's like about, I think it's like 12 books or something, or 12 things on the English exam. So, you know, different schools pick different things, and then there's a compare and contrast section. So what each school picks are kind of supposed to have themes that match, sort of thing. So, you know, you end up with a weird variety depending on the school you go to, which also makes it difficult for people who are repeating because they have to relearn the entire English course over again. But yeah, I can imagine it being really difficult. But like, also the annoying thing is, like, you could have just done what you'd done before, because it doesn't matter if your exam doesn't match up with everyone else's exam, as long as you were writing it on materials that are on the exam, it's fine. It doesn't matter that you're not writing it on the same books as everyone else. Because I know one or two people from my class were having difficulty with, I don't know, something we were doing. So the teacher was like, okay, you can study this book, this movie, this play instead. And, you know, it'll just go better with, you know, your form of study or whatever. So you could have just done that. I feel like some schools are very like, no, you have to do it our way. I don't care where you came from. I don't care how long you've been studying, your way. You need to do it our way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think with I'm trying to remember. It's kind of hard to remember all this stuff now because it was so long ago. But like, I think for English, for the compare and contrast stuff, we'd already kind of started that, and they were fine with me keeping what I had done, if I'm remembering correctly. And then the poetry, you know, you have your set poets anyway. So that was kind of fine. I think it was for Irish, they were like, yeah, you have to do what we're doing. Now, my Irish teacher wasn't bad or anything. I think it was just that it would have caused him issues with like me participating in the class with what everybody else was doing and discussing stuff. And so I just had to do what they were doing. And then the other difficulty was, I think, maths. You know, they had gone at a different pace than I had been going. So they were already on something else and I hadn't been there. I'm trying to think of the other subjects. Like, what subjects did I do?
Science? Did you do any of the science?
I did a chemistry thing, yeah. A chemistry thing? I did a chemistry thing.
I did chemistry until 5th year, then I dropped out.
I wish I had a...
I love how my master's is in science. I didn't do science for the leaving cert. At all.
Yeah, that's fine. You don't need to. I wanted to do physics originally, actually, but because the school I was in originally was in Tipperary Town, it was very small, and there weren't enough people who wanted to do physics, so I couldn't do it. So I just picked chemistry instead. That was really bad at it. But again, I didn't try.
I did chemistry because I originally wanted to be a vet, and you need chemistry to get into veterinary college. But I thought in 4th year is like transition year, so it's not like a proper school year in most schools. Some schools don't have a 4th year at all. You just go straight into 5th and 6th. Some schools it's mandatory, like mine. Some schools it's optional. Some schools it's a lottery where only like a certain percentage of the class can get into 4th year. But so it's not a proper school year, and a lot of schools, most schools I think who have it, will encourage the kids to do weeks of work experience. So you don't go to school for 3 weeks and you do work experience somewhere. So I did one of my work experiences in a vet's, and I at the time I was like, oh, this is, you know, interesting. But I think kind of the more I thought about it, and the more I thought about how much work and how much study I was going to have to put in to get just get into veterinary school, and then like how much of that I was gonna have to keep up to pass, because my mom and my aunt always said, like, if you're working yourself to the bone to get into a college course, how much harder you're gonna have to work to, you know, stay on top in that course. And so I think when I failed my Christmas exam in fifth year for chemistry, I was kind of like, you know, honestly, I don't want this that much. Mm-hmm. So I dropped out and I tried going into biology because my friends were in biology. That's not why I wanted to do it. My friends were in it, and from what they were saying they were learning, I was like, that is interesting. You know, that's interesting, and I had more than enough exam subjects that I could have just not taken the exam for it, because you only need 6. I had 8. This would have been my 9th subject, I think. So I could have easily just not, you know, just sat in the class and not taken the exam for it, if I felt like I was struggling, and just, you know, enjoyed the class. But it was very full, so they wouldn't let me join, even though by then a few people had dropped out because they too had failed their Christmas exams, or like decided they didn't need it anymore. And I was just kind of like, bitch, 5 people dropped out and you're not letting one me in? I'm tiny, let me in.
One me.
One me. I'm half a person, look at me, I'm short.
Well, I guess in a way that it was kind of good that you failed your chemistry, because you found your way to your, you know, your 3rd level. I can't speak English for some reason right now, which is difficult when we're filming a podcast.
Yep. All audio.
Yeah, all audio. Yeah, you found your way to your uni course that you did do, which you ended up loving.
Yeah. It's unemployable, but yeah.
Why don't you tell the people what you did for your unemployability?
I studied archaeology and classical studies because I'm a fucking twat. I also took sociology in first year. So at my university, you can, for the arts program, you have to take 3 subjects. You can take 4 in first year, and then your degree ends up just being in 2 subjects. So when I was filling out my CAO, which is the like state form you fill out, and you pick what college courses you want, and they all go out like anonymously at the same time, and then all your acceptances or declines come in at the same time. Well, I think you want to get your first choice acceptance, and then if you decline that one, then it'll go through the others. But anyway, so when I was filling out my CAO, I put down sociology and archaeology as what I wanted to do. And I know I knew at the time I didn't want to do sociology for the full 3 years. I knew I just wanted to do it in first year. But I knew from a friend of mine who had started the arts program at the same university the year before that the sociology class, despite having the highest number of students permitted, filled up the fastest. So I was like, if I put it down in my CAO, then as soon as I get in, I'll already have a place. I don't have to fight for a place. Mm-hmm. And I also knew from my friend, from Sky actually, that the classics one was usually like still had places after everyone had already signed up for all of their classes, because it's not hugely popular. So I was like, even if I get a really late date to pick my classes, there probably will still be classes available in classics. And I actually got a really early date, so I still had loads of options. So I did archaeology, sociology, and classics in first year. I was planning on doing 4 subjects, but then the issue with if you do 4 subjects is you have to do less modules because you still have 60 credits to fill. So, you know, it's like 3 classes spread over 60 credits, or 4 classes spread over 60 credits. And there was a load of archaeology and classics ones that I wanted to take. So I just stuck with the 3, and I only ended up doing 2 sociology classes, and they were both in semester 1. So technically I only did sociology for 1 semester as well, which it turns out was a blessing in disguise because I fucking hated sociology.
Oh, no.
Tip to anyone starting college: if after the introductory lecture you don't understand the class, leave, because you never will understand it. If you don't understand the introduction, you're never going to get it. after the introduction to both of my sociology classes, I did not get it. I did not like it. And like an idiot, I stuck with it. I should have swapped into a different subject while I still had time. I should have done history or something. That would have been useful to me. But no, I was an idiot. I stayed there for another 12 weeks. I barely passed. It's very lucky that my first year grades don't count in my overall GPA, or I don't think I would have gotten into a master's program.
Wait, does first year not count into your GPA?
You get a GPA, and when you're in second year, obviously it counts because it's the only GPA you've got. They can't just like not count it. But when you're applying for master's programs, your second year and third year GPA are the only ones who count. I had 4 years. I did 4 years of college, but my third year didn't count because I was on Erasmus. So it was a pass-fail year, so I didn't have a GPA. So yeah, when you're applying for a master's program, they only count your final 2 years. They don't count first year.
I did not know that. That's pretty nice of them. That's pretty chill.
Yeah, because like I feel like that is really good because a lot of people do struggle. And like my grades went from very bad GPA first semester to very good second semester because I was doing so much better. Also, I wasn't taking those sociology classes. But, you know, like I'd gotten a handle on things. I wasn't afraid of the library anymore. I'm pretty sure throughout the entire first semester, I didn't get a physical book out of the library at all. I just used online resources because the library scared the hell out of me. It was so big. But, you know, like second semester, my grades were way up just because I was a lot more confident in everything. I was a lot more confident, like, reaching out and asking for help and stuff if I needed it as well, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I vaguely remember my first year and my first time going to college that the library was like, whew, I don't want to be here. I went once. And I think I just went in and went out. And I was like, I can't do this, the anxiety. And then I was like, I'm just going to get a coffee. So,
yeah, we had a short-term loan section, which is usually where, like, the textbooks that the teachers recommended for the classes, they were in short-term loan because there was probably only, like, 2 or 3 of them. So you're only allowed to keep them out for 48 hours to kind of make it a little more fair. So that section was a lot smaller because it was usually just all the textbooks for all the courses. That was kind of the only books that were in there. So I just used to go in there all the time because it was small. It was easy to figure out where everything was. And anytime anything had like bracket general in the thing, I was like, I don't need that book. I mean, the title is exactly what my essay is on, but I don't need that book.
Oh, love.
It was so confusing. No, but like I've met people going into second year who've never stepped foot in the library, and I'm like, but you know what the main reason is? I gotta shout out my peer mentor. In my college, you had 2 days of orientation before classes started, and you had a peer mentor who took you around campus, who got you your card, who showed you where you could get your transport pass for students, and all of this stuff. My guy never took us into the library or the gym. You want to know the 2 things I was most afraid of in college? The library and the gym. F you, peer mentor, dude. So when I signed up to be a peer mentor, I took people into the library. I gave them a short, brief description of how to find things in the library. I also showed them how to find classrooms in the college because, the lecture halls were easy to find. The classrooms were difficult because the codes dictated what floor they were on as well as what room it was. So if it was, room F235, it was the F block, second floor, room 35. So I kind of showed them how to do that. And then taking them into the gym was the first time I was ever in the gym. And that is when I stopped being afraid of the gym.
That is great, though.
I finally went in. But yeah, it's just, I feel like you need, the whole point of having the peer mentor there is to show you these things, show you how they work. And even if they don't, tell you how to find the classrooms or how to find your books, at least you've stepped foot in the library already. So when I had my group, I was like, oh, I'm going to give you guys everything that was taken from me because my guy was a lazy shit. I could have gotten Sky. Our friend Sky was a peer mentor that year. I should have just hopped in with her group. abandoned my gun. But also my second day of peer mentoring was the day after my debs, so I may have been slightly very hungover.
Just a little bit. I really wish they had done, because I knew that your college had peer mentors. I never really thought about it, but I wish the first one I went to have had that, because on my first day I remember crying because I was so lost. I didn't know a single person there, and it was just awful. And if we had had that, I don't know if I probably wouldn't have stayed, but it would have made my time there easier, you know?
Yeah, because that's the whole thing. Like, I don't know anyone who's stayed friendly with the people they met in their peer mentor group. Most people don't ever see the people from their peer mentor group ever again. But at least you have those like 5 people that you've already met, you've already talked to, and you've already realized that everyone here is as scared and confused as you are. So even if you never see those 5 people again, at least you know, like, oh, everyone here is, you know, the same. And if I could talk to them, then I can talk to these other people because, you know, we're all in the same boat kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I think I would have been so stressed because I was so stressed out. Like before going, I kept bugging Sky about like, how do I find my classrooms? And where is this? And where is that? And how do I do this? And she was like, if you find once you get there, you'll figure it out. But I love how because you came to my dance with me. There's a picture of the 3 of us outside my secondary school. Dance is like a prom for anyone who doesn't know, but it takes place at the end of 6th year, at the end of summer. So like you've gone through 6th year, you've done your exams, and most cases a lot of people are about to start or have already started college by the time the debs is on. So it's kind of nice to like get back together, see if everyone got what they wanted, how their grades went, you know, yada yada. But so Eva came as my date, or Zan. Do you prefer Zan?
Yeah, but it's okay if you get confused because you've known me for like 18 years as Eva. So like
Zan came with me to the debs, but our friend Sky was also there. So there's a picture of the 3 of us outside my secondary school, me and Zan in our fancy getup and Sky in her UCD peer mentor t-shirt looking 10 out of 10 on fleek.
Yeah, she looks the best out of all 3 of us. Let's not lie here. I do
but also No, I just love how we gave her a lift to UCD because I had my peer mentor. I had my orientation and she was being a peer mentor, and we were late. So she was late for her job. Sorry, Sky.
No. Oh, dear. I do also love about that picture that I was very blonde at the time, you were very ginger, and she was brunette. We were Charlie's Angels. Is Charlie your mum in that case?
My dad? I don't know.
Somebody's Charlie. Your brother. Charlie. Your brother's Charlie.
My brother's Charlie, yeah.
I'm going to briefly explain this, completely off tangent. The Zan thing is a shortened version of my first name.
Yeah.
Let me explain for the people who are confused. So my first name is actually Eva Alexandra. Alexandra. You see? That's a lot of brain power
went into this. And then the space, and then the dra. I figured that out. I figured that out eventually. I was like, this is a weird name, and then I said it all together, and I was like, oh. Yeah. I'm big brain. I'm big brain.
Well, the Zandra is the name I make music under. I originally wanted it to be Zan, but there were 36 Zans on iTunes, and I went, let's not do that.
A little bit too much competition.
Yeah, just a little bit. So it's Zandra. So for anybody who's wondering what the hell is going on with my name, that is that. I tried to change it 2 years ago, but nobody would call me Zan. So I gave up.
I didn't know. I would have called you that had I known.
You didn't know, in fairness to you. Nobody that I actually see day to day would do it. But now that I mainly exist on the internet, it was easier.
You don't have a physical form anymore. You're just living inside the internet.
Yes, I am AI. Basically very advanced AI.
That's why the video keeps crashing, because your AI is too advanced for my internet.
Yeah, speaking of AI, I had thought about doing that in uni for a while when I was studying computer development, science stuff, web development, whatever. So should do we have enough caffeine in us to get into my 3rd level so far? Are we prepared? Let me have another sip of coffee before we get this.
My coffee's very cold, but
mine too.
It's actually all right. Usually I can't drink cold coffee, but this is good. I would recommend the double choc thing if you've seen it on the Instagram. But I put milk in instead of hot water because I find that when you, like, anything that says put in hot water, you know, any of those drinks, it just tastes like hot water with essence of chocolate or something. And nasty. So I put in milk instead.
That is very clever. I do want to say before we move on to my bullshit, for anybody that's listening that hasn't done college or is about to do college, every single person there who is starting off is just as terrified as you are. They may appear confident, and that is because, and wait for it, here's the kicker, you're not a mind reader. Fear does not look always like shaking and sweating and crying. So everybody's terrified. Just keep that in mind. But
I
yes.
also want to say, before we start, especially given what's going on with predicted grading in Ireland at the moment, and I'm sure this is the same issue in a lot of countries with the pandemic and exams and getting into college and whatever. If you have to take a year out, it's not the end of the world. Like, I thought having to take a semester out before starting my master's was going to be the end of the world, because by the time I start my master's, and including when we went into lockdown, I will have been like out of like physically going to school for 9 months. And I do get slightly stressed about that, because doing transition year at school sort of effed me up for fifth year, because I went from an exam year, a state exam year, to a DOS year, to an exam year, and I was kind of stressed. And I'm kind of doing the same thing now, where like it's a 1-year master's program, so, you know, I don't really have time to F around with it. But like, you just need to remember that, like, I know at the time it seems stressful that like everyone starts college at 18 or, you know, around then, and if you're not, then you're behind, and it's really stressful. But like, I'm behind everyone else technically, because I took an extra year in college, and I'm going to be behind everyone again by at least a semester because of this now. And it's not the end of the world. I know it seems like it, because you're not doing everything like as step by step as you should be. But like, a lot of the times that can be better for some people to just take that break and get out of it. And sometimes it gives you the opportunity to like decide if that's actually what you want to do, or if you're just doing it because it seems like college is the next step that you should be doing.
Wise words. Honestly though, and I am the poster child for not doing things the way they're supposed to be done. Yes, all hail me. So I did actually take a year out on purpose, not because of any pandemics, because that was back in the time before pandemic. I know.
There was a time before pandemic.
I know, it's hard to remember. But yeah, I did. Okay, so I originally didn't want to do college at all. Like, I had no intention of wanting to do it. And so the CAO, Megan explained that earlier, was you just put in the college courses you want, you get your first preference, your second preference, whatever, they go in order. And it's all anonymous. So I only put one course on my CAO because I didn't want to go to college. I put music tech, and I ended up getting it and didn't want to go. So I ended up deferring for a year, which basically, I don't know if they have this everywhere. They probably do, but it just means, they keep your place until next year. It's a fairly common thing. So I went away for the year, did my stuff. Then it came time to start college, and I was like, I guess I have to, which is not a good way to go into college if you feel like you have to, like you already said. If you feel like
it's a education shift, it's a social shift, it's like basically everything, a lot of things. For a lot of people, it's a location shift, like you're changing so much about your life. And if you don't want to do it, you're not going to do well, because you don't want to be there. Especially because no one's on top of you keeping track. No teachers are calling your parents saying you're not showing up to school. No one's handing back your work saying, I'm disappointed, you could have done better. It's all like on you. And if you don't want to be there, you're not going to do well. You're probably not even going to show up, because no one cares if you show up or not.
And I'm also the poster child for that because I did not stay in that course for very long. I obviously did not finish. I hated it from the beginning. I wanted to drop out from the beginning. I should have dropped out at the very beginning so I could keep my free fees for first year, but I did not. So I ended up leaving. Music tech was part of the arts program. It was a BA, despite the fact that it was in the computer science department and it had a lot to do with music and computer science physics. So I don't know why I was a BA. But I'm sorry, not off topic, on tangent slightly. I remembered something about that course that I had completely repressed. And I don't even know if you know this. I don't think we were even talking at the time. I was the first year rep for the music department.
I think I vaguely knew that, but also I was like, that's weird.
It was weird. But I mean, I was good at it. And my whole thing was just organizing stuff for everybody to get together and hang out and stuff. So that was fine. And I was good at it, but then I just kind of left. So it was like, okay, I'm done.
Fair though, like I wanted to be the class rep for my final year of school. Like I'd thought about it a few years beforehand, but I never fully understood what it was. And then I had the form done and I had it signed. You have to have it signed by in my school at least, you had to have it signed by a few people in your constituency. So I had it signed and everything, but the day it was due, I had 3 essays due at the same time. So I was so much panic in my head. I was like, why am I doing this? I don't have time. Look at how much work I have. But then as soon as I submitted those essays, I was like, I have nothing left to do for another 6 weeks. This was stupid. Because it was just that all my midterms were at once. But they were midterms. I had nothing left until the end of the year. So someone else got it. I know the person who got it. The person who got it, I know from a different college group I was in, and I had heard from that different college group how they had to have people keep an eye on her because she wasn't doing her job properly. And I was like, this bodes well for our class repness. And it did, because she never did anything. It also happened that, so our constituency was archaeology, classical studies, and art history, because the arts department is so big, the class reps are only for certain classes. Sociology probably has their own class rep because it's such a big group of people, whereas archaeology and classics and art history are very small classes, so they put them all together. But the problem with that is, as far as I can remember, every class rep we ever had was in art history and wasn't in archaeology or classics. So if they were doing anything, it was with the art history group and it wasn't with us, because we never saw any. The 3 years I was in that university, we never saw our class rep at all. So one of the reasons I wanted to run is because I was in archaeology and classics, so I at least had 2/3 of my constituency were people I knew, or I at least had their email addresses because we were all in the same class. That was stupid. I should have just gone ahead with it. My friends were all disappointed in me as well because they'd had to sign my form. So they were like, Megan, we wanted hoodies and a night out. And I was like, I know I wanted hoodies too.
Oh.
But if there's a class rep for my master's, I'm going for it. But also that looks good on my CV.
It really will. Really will. But I still can't believe that I did that. And again, I was good at it. But the final nail in the coffin for me of I'm not doing this anymore was so the whole entire time, I've talked about this a million times, I'm not going to go in depth, mental health was down its lowest point. And I just hit this point of it where I was like, life is meaningless. I'm going to die. Why am I doing stuff that I don't want to do? So I'm just going to leave. I'm going to get out. And I left and I went to Macedonia. And I had always said that I was going to take a year to fix my mental health or something, or to feel better and get in a good place, and then go back and do it the next year. I didn't do that. I spent a while not knowing what I wanted to do, thinking I probably just wouldn't go to college, work jobs, just worked. That was my thing. And then, I don't even know if you know this, you probably know this, I ended up doing college again for business informatics.
I remember you vaguely, I think when I visited you I think it was like 2 years ago now. When I was in Macedonia, you were like talking about how it wasn't like you were doing it, but it wasn't going well.
Yeah. So business informatics, because people get confused with this, it's computer science, so like programming and stuff, with like economics and business management, basically. The reason it wasn't going well is because I was, I can't think of the word in English. I was like an off-campus student,
Yeah.
which you have to pay extra for. But that particular college was so unorganized and so just horrible that I couldn't find out from my professors. I was emailing them what I was supposed to be doing, like what was on the course, what was recommended books, anything. I think I got an answer from one professor, and it was just a mess. So I ended up just not doing that, and instead I did a development boot camp for computer science, for web development, basically. Did that for like a bit over 9 months. No, 9 months. Maybe 8 months or something like that. And I had been really excited to do that, and it went okay. Then realized I hated development. Like, I can do it, it's fine. That was the plan, to work in it, but I was like, I hate this. Like, I'm miserable. Why would I do this for the rest of my life if I'm going to be miserable? You'll notice with me, it's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with trial and error, though.
Yeah, I mean, it works for some people. If you're like me and you're very scatty, sometimes it helps. Just maybe, try things in smaller batches rather than applying for different colleges and doing very expensive boot camps and stuff.
Yeah, if you have an opportunity to do work placements or an internship in something you think you might be interested in, do it. Because that's how I didn't waste 4 years doing veterinary school.
Yes. And also, good tip for people is there's a lot of like online courses you can do for free, or there's YouTube tutorials even. So just get a taste of something, even if you know, like, I really want this, get a taste for it first, because you might be like, actually, this isn't what I expected.
Yeah, like I was doing a course a while ago on forensic anthropology, which is basically what my master's is in, but it was just kind of like to keep me up to date, because I'd done a forensic course as an elective in college, which is how I knew I wanted to do it for my master's. And so it was just kind of like to bridge the gap between when I finished college and when I was starting my master's. But then my laptop died, so I stopped going. But, like there's free courses like that are well structured. They're made to be done online, and, you're not wasting money because they're free, or you can get ones that are like cheap and stuff like that. And it just kind of gives you a little bit of an idea as to whether you like this.
We're so wise. Look at us. My God, all this life experience.
We've learned things.
We've learned. Yeah. But now on the topic of current education, so you said you're going to do your master's. You want to talk about that a little bit? Or do you feel like...
Oh my God.
For the people that aren't watching this or just listening, my cat just jumped down from the top of the wardrobe and scared the absolute shite out of Megan. That was the thump.
Oh my God!
She was sleeping up on top of the wardrobe.
I don't know what I thought that was, but it kind of scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, there's a bowl of food on the ground, so if you hear a munch, that's what that is.
Love that. Love your cats. Your cats are great.
Yeah, that's Stradivarius, by the way. The other one's
I do love Stradivarius. Anyway, so yes, I'm starting my master's in January. I have a friend who's just finishing the exact same master's now. She's just finishing up her dissertation. So I do know it's very intensive. It's basically the entire human skeletal system, plus some of the muscles and joints and stuff, plus having to tell the difference between human bones and animal bones, plus diseases and stuff, plus whatever you want to do your dissertation in. So I know it's a lot, and I'm kind of stressed for it, but I'm also happy to be moving again. I was just thinking about this the other day. I was like, by the time I moved, I would have lived in 3 different countries for 3 different years, for like 3 consecutive years. Which is kind of cool.
That is nice.
I'm excited. I'm excited to start, and it's kind of it's weird because last time I was moving, I knew I was coming home because I was moving for Erasmus. So, also, I did an Erasmus for a year. If anyone has the opportunity to go on Erasmus and you can afford it, I highly recommend. It is a great experience, especially if you like learn a subject that can be interpreted differently in different countries. Like I would imagine that like maths and science and stuff like that are sort of the same no matter where you go. But like archaeology and like classics and stuff can be done different ways in different places. So it's really interesting. And then because I was sort of like in the center of Europe in a small country that you can like easily get out of, like for one of my classes, we went on a class trip to the University of Vienna. So I got to like see another university as well. So highly recommend if anyone has the opportunity. But yeah, when I moved on Erasmus, I knew I was coming home because I had to finish my final year of college. But this time I'm moving and I'm like, I don't know when I'm coming home. I don't know if I'm coming home because the university I'm going to has an Erasmus program for internships. So like you can go abroad and do an internship for a semester or a year. And I'm kind of thinking about that. I want to find out more when I go. And then also I want to like do a PhD. And I don't know if I'll do it at the university I'm going to, but I'll probably do it somewhere in the UK. So it's kind of weird. Like I'm going out into the world and I don't know if or when I'm coming back, which is kind of exciting, but also a little like, because I don't want to be gone for 5 years and then have to come home and live in my house.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, well, for my current thing, so how do I explain this in the simplest way possible? So going back to my original story, as I had said, if you've forgotten, I had said maybe I was going to go back after a year or something. So I had never actually officially dropped out of college, which I didn't really realize because it's been like 4 or 5 years, 4 years or something. I have no concept of time. Been about 4 years. So I kind of just thought, I'm not there anymore. And for the last like a very long time, I've actually been planning to apply next year in Ireland as a mature student to do a Bachelor of Science of Psychology, or if I can't get into one of the Bachelor of Science, to do a BA in psychology. And the thing is, psychology is something I've been interested in like my whole life, at least from teenage years. But just the way my education went and me not caring about school, it just never happened. But applying as a mature student, I don't know how it works in other countries, but applying as a mature student, it doesn't go off your grades. You're like leaving cert, your secondary school grades. So it's just, you're going to sneeze.
I'm good.
Okay, look like you're about to sneeze.
Yeah, I was.
Okay, well, bless you in advance. But anyway, yeah, it doesn't go off your grades, but it's kind of harder to get in because there's more competition. You have to do like motivational letters, give your CV, prove that you're the best candidate rather than just these are my grades. But yeah, psychology is what I wanted to do. And then I started getting emails from my old college. It turns out the emails were sent to me by mistake. Like it was something about tax. It was just a mistake. But it got me thinking, wait, am I still a student at this college? Because they still have me in their records.
Yeah.
So I didn't even email them. I didn't call them. I wanted to call them, but the phone line was down or something, I guess, because of COVID. They're not in office. So they have a live chat on the website. So I started talking to the live chat for like an hour or so. It turns out I'm still a student. And according to the live chat, she checked with registration and the course and stuff. I could repeat first year. But here's the fun part. The course that I did is no longer a course. So she checked with transfers and with registration, and I was, on her part, what she told me was that I've been approved to transfer into first year of general arts, which means I could pick my subjects from there. So that's kind of the plan. It's not for sure yet because I had to email them my registration document, which said which subjects I wanted to take. So I picked psychological studies, criminology, and international development. Yes. Yes, very fancy. But they haven't gotten back to me yet, and it's been like almost 2 weeks, if not 2 weeks. Yeah, I think it
has been because you were emailing me, telling me, well, not emailing, you were messaging me, telling me like they've given you these different options of like how you could come back and stuff, and that seemed like it was about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so they haven't gone back to me yet, and there is still a chance they're going to be like, actually, there's been a mistake, you can't come back, or something like that. And I'm kind of trying not to get my hopes up just in case that is the outcome, and because they've taken so long to get back to me. But that is the plan, and I hope it works out. The only difficulty with that is going to be, so since it's not doing a psychology degree, it's doing psychological studies as part of a general BA. It's not accredited by the PSI, or the Psychological Society Ireland thing. But what I can do, and I found this out, is in Dublin there are 2 Masters of Science that I can do that accept bachelors that aren't PSI accredited. There's others in the country, and then there are also, so those are a year long, and then there are also 2-year conversion courses. So I can do either of those and get the accreditation, and then I will already have a master's and can go on and do a PhD after that, and will be accredited. So that's the plan. I hope it works.
So this will be the doctor's coffee and catch up in a few years.
Yes. Oh my God. Amazing. We'll be there with our doctors. Yes. That's going to be amazing.
We'll be doctors. We'll be PhD doctors, which is cooler.
Well, so my current plan is to go into clinical psychology, I think. I might end up doing genetics or something, God only knows. But the current plan is clinical psychology, which would mean I would be working in medical world.
Oh yeah.
So I would be a not doctor working with doctors.
Great.
Amazing.
It's so cool. But yeah, just with you saying there's been a delay, I wonder if the delay is because, so here in Ireland, like we were saying, with the leaving cert, which we do at the end of 6th year, and the grades from that, your overall points, which is sort of like a GPA. I think it ends up being like your GPA, but it's out of 600, not out of 4 point whatever. But those determine what college courses you are eligible for, along with what exam subjects you took. For example, like veterinary study, you need to have taken chemistry and have a certain number of points to get in, kind of thing. But the issue is the leaving cert is all one exam that you do over like a 2 or 3 week period at the end of 6th year. There's like oral exams and there's a practical art exam which take place like during 6th year, but the entire process is a sit down exam thing. Obviously that couldn't happen with COVID, so they decided we're just gonna grade you off all the work you've already done and give you a made up grade, which is fine if you're in college or if your system is set up for that. The leaving cert is not set up for that. So there's a lot of people who are very upset about that. The points have gone way up, which is sort of affect everybody for next year as well, because anyone looking to get into a course are going to see the points being really, really high. And obviously the points aren't going to be high next year because hopefully everyone will be back to like doing the exam normally. But it also means like there's no actual basis for like how many points you need to get in now because it's not helpful. But and yeah, it's just a lot of issues with it. But another one of the issues is 10% of the papers that got graded wrong and got graded lower. So they have to let 10% of people into college courses now. So that might be where your issue is, because that happened about 2 weeks ago. So I think, I'm not keeping up to date with it, but from what I've seen, they kind of have to let these people in. And because everything's online, it's sort of okay to let them in because you don't need there to be only 600 students to fit in a classroom because there isn't a classroom anymore. So I think they're letting them in, but that might be why there's a bit of delay, is because, there's issues with everything that's going on. But hopefully that means that if you do get in, then they won't be as harsh on you for missing a certain number of weeks, because a lot of people will have missed, weeks of school and stuff. So
yeah, I hope so.
It might be a win-win kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that's the case. I'm also quite lucky in the fact that so a lot of students going in now will have part-time jobs and stuff like that. My job and my full-time job for the last while has been YouTube, which means I can fully integrate that around college and catching up with everything that I've missed. And luckily, and here's going to be the moral of my messy story. It was, okay, so you were ready to, go into college immediately, and that linear path worked for you. And then there are other people who that doesn't work for them, but they think they need to. And I tried to do that, and it didn't work for me. But now, 5 years later, after finishing secondary school, I know for a fact that I'm in a place where I'm mentally and financially and physically good to do college, and I want to do it. So now is like the time for me to do it, and that's okay.
Yeah, like there's I mean for the archaeology, there was so many mature students in archaeology, and a lot of them were like people who were retired and were just going back because they were interested in archaeology. But some of them had said to me, they were like, I spent my entire life doing something I didn't really like just to get a paycheck, but now that I'm retired, I'm going back and I'm studying the thing I like. I'm never going to get a job in it because I'm retired now. But, like at least now I'm kind of learning the thing I like. And I think that's kind of sad. I mean, it's nice that they, like finally got around to it, but they're never going to be able to, get into the field kind of thing. And I think it's kind of sad. So, if you need a 5-year break before you decide what you want, or if you need those 5 years to get in the right space to be studying, then I do that, because that's better than wasting 3 or 4 years in college doing something you don't like, wasting a lot of money, and then being in that field for a number of years because you feel like you have to make use out of your degree, or because you can't afford to go back and do something you want to do. Mm-hmm. Like, you're better off taking the break, figuring out what you want to do, and then going back, instead of just trying to force yourself to do what everyone else is doing. I know when you're like applying for college, it seems like the end all be all that you get into college now because that's when everyone else is applying. But spoiler alert, once you get in, no one is the same age as you. No one got to college the same way. I was in the exact same sociology class as my cousin who was 24. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, there was 60-year-old people, there was 25-year-old people, there was 18-year-old people in my course. You don't ask people's ages. I mean, some people, it's obvious that they're older, but, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Everyone gets along. I know some people who were, like, best friends with mature students, and they were, like, 18, and it was, like, just, I feel like when you go from a system where everyone's the same age, because you started school at the same time and you go through it year by year by year, and unless you get held back or something, everyone is the same age throughout school. It seems like it's so important that you go into college as the same age as everyone else, but once you get there, you realize it doesn't matter, because no one in college is the same age.
Yeah, and like, if you want to take like 3, 4, 5 years to go bartend, you can go do that. If you want to go work abroad, you want to get a visa for America for a year, if you're not in America already, you can go do that. Like, just do the stuff. Don't feel like you're pressured to do it immediately, because as well as that, I've heard from people, and I've said it in the past, like, oh my god, I'm too old to do this now. Like, I'm in my 20s. Even if you're in your 50s or your 60s, what does it matter how old you are? Use whatever time you have to do the thing that you know is going to make you happy, rather than ensuring that you're going to be unhappy for the rest of your life. Does that make sense?
You're never too old to learn.
Yeah.
Like, you're never too old to learn something new. And even if, like, you could just be learning that something new for fun. You might have a job that, gets you your money and that you're satisfied with, and you might just be interested in learning like archaeology or classics, and you might not be able to afford to take the risk of finding a job in a field that is very difficult to get into, but you can just study it, learn about it, stuff like that, if you can afford to, obviously. But yeah, and like also taking the time out, you were saying like you're financially able to start now is a good thing, because my parents paid for my undergraduate and they're lending me the money for my master's, but I am paying them back as soon as I have a steady paycheck. But so I'm very fortunate in that sense. I had friends who had to pay for college themselves, and I know it was very difficult for them to get enough money they needed to pay off school, while also like staying on top of everything, while also traveling to and from school all the time. And like, honestly, I don't know how they did it. Some of them had to take out like loans at ridiculous rates because it was the only way they could pay for college and stuff like that. And if it's too stressful, like obviously if you're traveling 2 hours in and out of college and you're working like 18 hours a week and you're studying I don't know how many hours a week, you know, if that's not viable for you, then it's okay to take the time out as well to build up that money you need so that you can like dedicate yourself entirely to it, or so that you can get to the place like you were saying where your schedule is flexible enough that you can like slot everything in at once and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically, to sum up everything we have said, do the thing that make you feel the good.
Put that on a t-shirt.
We need that on t-shirts.
Do the thing that make you feel good.
Yes, let's make merch with that on a t-shirt, on a mug,
logo,
everything.
On a mug, definitely. If ever we do podcast merch, it's got to be on a mug first.
Oh, obviously, of course.
On a mug. But yeah, because I don't know. I was just that when you said the financial thing, I was just thinking about when I had my job and it was killing me softly. That's not the tune of the song.
Yeah, well, it's okay. It's at least you get the words right, because you usually get the tune right, but the words wrong.
Yeah, but yeah, I was working in a fast food restaurant. Is it fast food? I don't know. It was a restaurant.
It's fast food.
It's like a sit-in fast food restaurant.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it killed me. It was dead. But also, I was doing night shifts in the city, which is an hour away and does not have great public transport back to my house in the middle of the night. Pro tip, don't do that. Pro tip, that's stupid.
Yeah, that's one of the few things we have in common with our like academic and career stuff over the last few years is we've both done nights and wanted to die.
Nights are shit.
They're really awful.
They are shitty. Also, like, to any students out there who are working a part-time job, I know once you get like your first job, it seems like the end all be all, like you have to stay there. It's your job. But if it's impacting on your education, jump ship. Because if they're not listening to you saying like, I need X, Y, and Z off because I have an exam or yada, 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 then like they're not going to get, it's never going to get any better if they don't listen to you in the beginning. Because I know that was one of my issues with my job. It impacted on my ability to study. It impacted, I was working 4 days in a row, pretty much all night shifts leading up to an exam that was 80% of my grade, and I had failed the other 20%, so I had to get 40%. I had to get above 50% in this exam to pass. And I know I had a proper panic attack one of the nights because I was like, I'm going to fail this exam. I was sitting in the staff room at 2 a.m. trying to study human anatomy, and I was like, I'm going to fail this exam, and this is what I want to do my master's in. And I'm just like, I literally like just came home from work one of these days when I realized my boss wasn't going to give me the day off that I asked for. And I just sat on the floor and I like cried so hard because I was convinced I was going to fail that exam, that I was going to have to pay the €100 to repeat it, which like, I think my parents were going to be sympathetic towards it because they knew how much I was struggling with that particular job. But yeah, I was like stressed that they were going to give out about that it was going to look really, really bad when I was applying for master's programs, that I'd like failed the course that is basically based on what my master's is in and all of this. I think one of the reasons my parents volunteered, because originally my mom and dad had said that I had to pay for my own master's, and I was looking at getting a loan out, but I was hoping to build up enough money that I could get a smaller loan out so I wouldn't have to pay as much interest. You know, I didn't have to get the whole of my rent money and my accommodation out, that like if I could pay for my rent at least, then I only had to pay for my fees kind of thing with a loan. But I think once they saw how like stressed I was getting with my job and how it was like impacting on my studies, there was like, there's no point in her paying for, you know, her having this job to pay for her master's if she can't get into her master's because of this job. So they were like, we'll just lend you the money instead, which I'm very grateful to my family for, because I legitimately think I would have failed if I had been in that job any longer.
Yes. God bless your parents. They are the sweetest. Love them.
I don't know what that was.
That was some kind of religious thing. I don't know. So the way this is actually being recorded for the video, actually, I'm just realizing most people aren't seeing the video. So she did some kind of sign of the cross for people who don't know what's going on, what we're talking about.
Yeah, like I said, I'm doing my master's in pretentious bone things.
Pretentious bone things.
I don't want to repeat the words because they sound pretentious. But so I think it's kind of important to do more if you can. Obviously, if you're working and you're traveling and to school and stuff like this, it's difficult. But if you can do, sorry, Eva's frozen on my screen with her eyes closed. It's kind of funny.
Sorry.
If you can do like extra things to sort of like stand out a bit. So, for example, my university had, for archaeology, had a field school where for 2 weeks we went to Glendalough and we dug trenches in the rain to uncover archaeological things. I don't know, it was all Christian stuff, which is not my area of interest, but you know, it was a good experience. I got site experience. I now know how to, you know, work on an archaeological site, and I know how like the health and safety of all of that works. And then last year I did an internship module where one of my classes was like, for 3 weeks during the summer I had an internship, and then I had to write an essay about how it was, and that was my entire class. I got 5 credits for that, which was a valuable experience. The internships were great, but in retrospect I shouldn't have wasted 5 credits on that class, because I could have been taking a class where it was actually teaching me something. Not that the internships didn't teach me anything, but I could have done them without doing the class. Is my point. But so I worked in the county council in the heritage department for 3 weeks, and then I also worked in a kids archaeology camp for 2 weeks, educating children on archaeology and heritage, which was a lot of fun. I really liked that camp. It kind of it boosted in me the idea that I like teaching people, which is I hope to stay in research, both doing research and presenting research later on, in the hopes that someday maybe I can become a college professor. Is like top tier dreams. I originally wanted to be like a secondary school teacher, but because classics is that we don't teach archaeology as a leaving cert subject, so I could only teach classics. And like I said before, a lot of schools don't do classics, so I would have had to learn another subject, which would have been a lot of money and another couple of years, and then I would have had to do a master's. I would have done the master's first and then learned another subject. And even then, it would probably be years before I could get a full-time job out of that, because there are too many teachers in this country. So, you know, when I looked at all of that and when I kind of saw how much it was going to be, I was like, I don't want this that bad. It just seemed like an easy out with my degree. But yeah, so I feel like if you have the opportunity to do extra things, then do them, because I suppose it looks better when you're applying for things, rather than I did an undergraduate and I did a master's. It's like I did an undergraduate, I did a master's, I did a field school, I did 2 work placements. Hopefully I want to be class rep for my master's program if they have that. I know at my university, what I did my undergraduate at UCD, the master's students are allowed to be tutors. So they tutor the undergraduate students. They get paid for that. It's not a lot. I mean, it's a lot per hour, but you might only have 1 hour of classes a week. So, you know, it doesn't work out to be a lot. But that also looks good, because you're like, you show that you know how to present research and stuff like that. I've also started, I haven't posted anything on it. I've started an academic Instagram. So, and I'm on my YouTube channel. I want to post vlogs and sort of like how my master's journey is going kind of thing. And I think all of that would be good because I know a lot of places at the moment are looking, especially in science or research, are looking for people who show that they are able to present complex ideas to the general public. So a lot of people who, one of my friends does neuroscience, and I know a lot of people in science these days, if they can show that they can present all this, like, you know, really science, big language, big talk, science terms,
big talk,
and caveman, if they can, you know, if they show that they're able to present this to an audience of the general public, and that it's getting good feedback, then you're more likely, not more likely, but you know, it's another tick in your column of like, this is great because their academic information shows us that they know how to present research to other academics, but this also shows us that they know how to get science out into the general public, which is becoming, you know, a big part of science now, is to get everyone interested in it. So I think it's the same with history and archaeology and stuff like that, that like if you can show that you can present things to people and you can make it interesting to people who might not normally have an interest in it, then it's like another tick in your column. So yeah, there's just some things I'm trying to do. Obviously, I don't know, I haven't like done them yet because I'm not in college. I'm not starting for another while, so if I like started posting now, I'd very quickly run out of things to post about. But yeah, I think if you can just add to your education, because just doing the bare minimum, even like study-wise, even if you're just passing all your classes, it doesn't look great because they can see your GPA. And if you're just like passing bare minimum, like it kind of shows that you're not all that interested in what you're doing. And if you're not interested in it, why would they be interested in having you in the future? So I don't know. That's my advice. I don't know if that's true because I don't have a job. So that could be a fall flat on my face kind of thing.
I think that was a good wisdom.
And wisdom.
Yes, but you missed a prime opportunity there to plug your new Instagram and your YouTube, so you should do that.
Yeah, YouTube is Megan McGrath. If you're watching this, then our channels, both of our channels, are linked in the channel page on our YouTube channel.
Yes, and in the description of this video on YouTube.
Yeah. And then my Instagram, my regular Instagram is Megan_MCGR, and my academic one is Megan of Bones. But like I said, I haven't posted anything on that yet, but I have some ideas. That book I was reading about people eating dead people for medicine. Corpse medicine, there's the term. Corpse medicine. There's going to be a post about that because it's highly interesting.
I would really like to see a post about that because I'm very intrigued by this, but I don't know if I would read the entire book because that is not my field of study. In fact, I don't have a field of study.
It's really interesting though because I was doing a class a while ago when the teachers were talking about these things called imagined narratives, where you like, so I was writing an essay on this site in Greece where it was the cult of Demeter and Persephone were worshipped. So, you know, I had to do all this research onto the cult and the architecture and what went on there, the ceremonies and yada, yada, yada. But the teacher also wanted an imagined narrative where you take all the information you've learned and you write a little like it's fictional in the sense that like it doesn't have to be based on a real person or real events, but it does have to be historically accurate to like, you know. So it's like basically like historical fiction kind of thing. But the book I was reading starts out with one of these imagined narratives. And it's the first time I've seen one in like an proper academic context. And it's really interesting how you can use this to kind of like draw in the, you know, general public, like people who probably wouldn't usually read this book. And it kind of gets them into it because it like puts you in the headspace of like here you're this character and you're running through the streets of London. You've got a skull under your arm and you're bringing it to King Charles, or whatever. And it's like a little fiction piece, but it's all like based on true things that happened and how things were. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, it was just at the start of the book, and I was like, oh, I learned about this, and now I'm seeing it in practice, and it's cool.
I'm just going to say, though, I demand a video on your channel about corpse medicine. If I do not see this, I'm going to be disappointed.
When I finish the book, I will do a video on corpse medicine.
Please.
I'm also reading a book at the moment, which is, it's not an academic book. It's just like a, if you're interested in this kind of thing book, I don't know what you'd call those books. It's this historian, for some reason, was doing research into like a bunch of old medical journals and stuff, and he picked out all the really weird and wacky cases and wrote a book describing each of them. I think it's called like Exploding Teeth and something else, because it's like about all these weird things where like people's teeth were exploding, or some guy swallowed a bunch of knives and they eventually killed him, but he passed a lot of them, which I find shocking. And then he swallowed some more and he died. But,
he swallowed more?
I think over the course of his life, he swallowed like 37 knives.
What a dumbass.
And it wasn't even, I don't even think that it was that they stabbed him and killed him. I think it was that the metal corroded inside of him and that's what killed him.
Maybe he had an iron deficiency. I like how you're just like, okay. That's the thing you've said. Well, maybe I should, you look confused.
Sorry, I know I was glitching for a bit there, but I think I got the gist of what you're saying.
Okay. Well, so your whole plan now for your current moment is, how to make yourself more appealing to employers after your master's. My whole thing at the moment is very different to yours in that. So this is all assuming that this stuff with my course and repeating first year goes ahead, because there's still a chance that it won't. But assuming that it does, my plan at the moment is actually for first year not to stress myself out with extra stuff, because this is me going back to education. Plus, I'll be starting late in the semester and I'll need to catch up. And I was never a good student. Like, I never studied, I never cared, mostly because of mental health stuff. But that's not an excuse, really. But, it's just what happened. So I want to get back into, studying and learning and just throw myself into fully the academic part of it. And then, once first year is over and I've taken my exams, then move on to be like, okay, well, I have my basis in how I study. I'm in the swing of it now. Now I'm going to do this extra stuff. Maybe even look for like over one summer to volunteer somewhere or get an internship in something, stuff like that, extra stuff.
Yeah, because that's like none of the stuff I've done was in first year. Like, first year was just first year. I didn't even get involved in any societies until like halfway through the year, which was a mistake because I also didn't have any friends for the first half of the year, because it's impossible to make friends when you're in a room of 600 people. But yeah, like my first year was nothing. The field school I did was during the summer of between first year and second year, but it was a part of a college course. So I was still, getting credits for doing it. And I had classes that pertained to it when I went back to school. So it wasn't a stressor because it was built into how I was supposed to be learning, kind of thing. And then the internships as well, those were during school. So yeah, like if you're going back, or if you're, I think in first year especially, just leave it. Just get used to being in college. Like, piling stuff on when you're in first year is not helpful, because like you kind of need that baseline to like, this is how my academic life should, at its baseline be. And then if you feel comfortable, add things on, or like do things during your midterm break or your Easter break or summer break, and like when you're not busy and stuff like that. Yeah, like, I mean, I definitely wouldn't recommend like trying to add a bunch of stuff on in first year, because like I think it is one of the most stressful years. I think that's why they don't count your GPA, is because they realize like everyone's going to have a bit of a stumble trying to, get into everything.
Hmm. And I know for as well for me specifically, one thing I definitely want to look into trying to do. I don't know how I could do this, how I could find my way, but I think once I have the connections and I'm in the college, I might find a way to do it in second year or third year. So one of the reasons the psychological studies isn't actually accredited is because there's basically no research modules, which is an extremely important part of psychology. So I want to try and find a way to get involved with research outside of my own academic studies. So either, volunteer to help with something, see if I can somehow take an extra class, even outside of the college, on research in psychology, just to get that extra experience. Because I know for a fact when I want to go apply for a master's, that's going to go in my favor, that I have this edge on the other people who aren't accredited, didn't do an accredited psychology course, that I have some research experience. And it's also something that I know I want to hopefully work in the future, is research. So it's important for me, So
yeah, like I would also say, I know in my university, a lot of the psychology students who were doing their masters and stuff had to do, like studies and stuff, or were working with professors on studies that they were doing. And so they had a lot of like volunteer sheets up for like, do you want to volunteer for our study? Which obviously like you can't put down as like experience, but it is an experience in the sense that you'll understand what it's like from the other side for when you are doing research kind of thing, to be like, I've been on the other side of the table, I know what it's like to be the research subject, sort of thing. So like if any of those pop up, they might be good ideas. And like things like when one of my teachers at college, one of my professors was a professor in osteology. That she wasn't teaching that at the university though, because our university doesn't really do osteology, but she has a degree in osteology, but she focuses on mobility. So the class was in mobility with like a little bit of like how osteology can tell us about mobility. But she was a member of the Irish Society for Osteoarchaeologists, or I can't remember what the exact name of it is, but it's the like official accreditation society that you're supposed to join if you want to kind of like, meet other osteologists and like get your research out there kind of thing. And she invited the students to their annual, like their AGM, and no one went but me because I'm the only one who likes bones. But, it was an interesting thing because they were presenting the research they'd been doing over the year, and, you got to see things like that. So, like, if any of your, professors, like, recommend things, like, try and grab at them, even if you can't be like, this is something I went to. Like, you can get a look at how it's going to be later on. It gives you kind of a good insight into, like, what you're aiming to be or where you're aiming to be in a few years kind of thing.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
You won't be clueless, basically, when you start off. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's interesting. I don't know. I found it interesting.
It sounds pretty cool, actually. Well, do we have any final notes on education?
School sucks, but also school's fun.
I'm just surprised we mostly managed to stay on topic.
Yeah. I would say though, one of the big things I stress when I was a peer mentor and stuff is if your college has societies and stuff, join them and actually go to the events. I know it seems stressful, but actually go. Because all of my college friends I got from the Harry Potter Society. Do not love J.K. Rowling. She a bitch. Don't like her anymore. Horrible person. But all of my college friends came from the Harry Potter Society. So, like, I know it's, like, it can seem stressful to go to them, but, like, a little coffee morning or, stuff like that. Like, if it turns out bad, you can just turn around and walk away. No one's going to be offended. Trust me, I was on the committees. If people turned around and walked away, we were not offended. We just tried a little harder to be, inclusive of the next people that came in. And some societies suck. They're not inclusive. The committee is very cliquey. They don't try with new people. But a lot of them do try, because we don't get funding if we don't get new people. So, I just for anyone who's starting college now or is starting college next year, with the social aspect, and societies are very important for that, because trust me, I was in two of the smallest arts programs you can be in, archaeology and classics, and I still found it extremely difficult to befriend people in my classes. There was this one girl who I would see from across the lecture hall, and I was like, you and I, we would be best friends just by looking at you. I know, we would be best friends. Never spoke to each other until a Harry Potter coffee morning, where we both turned to each other and said, I always thought we'd be great friends, but I never had the confidence to go up and talk to you. And now she's doing the same master's program as me, and has just finished. She was the one I was talking about earlier, just finished the master's program. And yeah, we're still good friends. So, you know, like, trust me, I understand that, like, lecture halls are stressful, and, you know, they're not conducive to making friends, because that's not really what you're supposed to be there for. But if you have groups or societies or clubs or anything like that at your college, join, because really that's probably the only place you're going to make friends.
The final thing I want to stress before we go, because we didn't really mention this, because, you know, both of us, our end goal education-wise is third level master's, possibly PhD. Not everyone has to go or wants to go to university. Not everybody has to go or wants to go to third level education of any kind. It is not the right path for everybody. Some people just don't want it. Some people don't need it for their career path. I mean, for example, you can become a web developer without ever setting foot in a university. So don't ever feel like you have to do it. If it's something you want to do, then by all means, make that happen if you can. But if you don't have to and you don't want to, just don't. Don't feel pressured by anybody. That is my wisdom for the day.
Yeah. Oh, on that note, though, I feel like I know some people who, because I've graduated this year, so most of my friends have graduated this year as well. And I know some people who they feel like failures because they don't want to go and do masters. And that's perfectly fine, because I feel like when you're in college, you're in a very academic and research-based world where if you don't want to go on to do academia or research, then it sort of feels like a failure, because, you know, you haven't, like, gone on, you haven't improved yourself more. And that's not the case. Like, a lot of people, you know, you do your BA, you leave, you can get a very good job from that, you could move up very quickly, you know, you could be perfectly happy that way. A lot of people don't want to go into academia and research, but I can understand that when you're in that environment, it feels like kind of a failure if you don't want to continue, like, learning more. And I want to say, like, yeah, it's not for everyone. Like, starting college at all is not for everyone, and continuing on once you've graduated your undergrad is not for everyone. You don't have to do it. Like, you can get perfectly good jobs. You can get perfect jobs with no degree, and you can get perfectly good jobs with just an undergraduate. Like, it doesn't matter. They're like, everyone's got their own way of going at things. And if university isn't for you, but you do need, like, you know, some kind of education to get into what you want to get into, like, I would suggest talking to people that are in that field, or, you know, stuff like that, because they might tell you that there's another way around. Like, you know, universities will always tell you, oh, if you want a job in this, then come do our degree. But if you actually ask anyone in that field, they'll probably tell you, like, oh, well, this percentage of our employees actually came from this route instead. So, you know, like, if there's something you really want to do, but you feel like you have to have a degree in it, look into it fully first and make sure, because you might not actually need what you think you need. There's always routes around. Like, I know when I started college, going in on the Leaving Cert seemed like the only way to do college, and there was no other way. And if you failed the Leaving Cert, your life was over. And then once you got in there, you realize there's 100 different ways to get into college. And there's 100 different ways to get into a job that don't involve going to college. So, yeah, I mean, I'd say education isn't everything. Obviously, it is important. And if you want to do it, definitely, like, you know, put the effort in, do it. It's worth it. But if you don't want to do it, there are other ways around things as well.
Look at you, so wise. Look at you.
It's the fringe. The fringe makes me smile.
Yes, the fringe is what gives you your wisdom.
It's my power.
Well, on that very wise, very powerful note, I think we could probably call this the end of episode 2.
That's a podcast.
That's a podcast. Before we go, guys, please, if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and turn on notifications. If you are listening to us on Spotify, iTunes, whatever it is, please follow us. And as we already said at the beginning, you can also find us at CACU Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. Same handles.
Yeah, we update every 2 weeks. I think this one's going up a little late, but we will try and be every 2 weeks.
We might be late.
I think it's supposed to go up today.
I thought it was supposed to go up next week. We are going to work on our schedule.
We're working on it. We're new. We're working on it. It's fine.
Yes, this is a new podcast.
I was checking out. I just want to give claps to everyone who watched the first episode because I was very impressed with our numbers. On everything. We've got like 200 and something subscribers on YouTube, which is more than I've got.
You've got more than 200 on YouTube.
I've got like 250. I think we've got 270 on the podcast. Most of those are probably Eva's people that she hasn't bullied into joining my channel already. No, I'm kidding. But I was just very surprised by all the numbers, and I sort of thank everybody for watching the first podcast, for all the nice comments and stuff that you left on the YouTube video. I'm pretty sure, because we upload this on Anchor, and I'm fairly sure if you listen on Anchor, you can also leave comments there. So I just want to thank everybody for their support on the first episode. Yes. It is heartwarming. I'm heartwarmed.
My heart, it is warm. It is usually cold. Currently, it is warm.
It has grown 4 times its size. I'm no longer Grinch.
Yeah, no, seriously though, big thank you to people, because the people received it really well, and it could have gone terribly. Nobody could have listened, or people could have listened and hated it. And if you guys weren't listening, this would just be the two of us on a Zoom call. So,
which it's not bad. This is our catch-up time as well, but also it's nice.
Yeah, it is nice to have people, listening when we want them to listen. And the stuff that we keep private, we cut out, and maybe eventually we'll make an outtakes video.
Yeah. Just the beginning of this alone would be its own outtakes.
Yes, it really would. Anyway, thank you for listening to episode 2. We love you. Subscribe, follow, all the things. Have a beautiful next 2 weeks until we upload again. And bye.
That's a podcast.
That is a podcast. Goodbye.
Bye.